Path of Exile 2's latest patch is live, bringing a wide range of updates, from general improvements and bug fixes to buffs and nerfs across skills, support gems, and items. In this video, I'll highlight some of the most impactful changes so you can understand how they might affect your gameplay and plan ahead for what's coming. Let's kick things off with some general improvements. This patch brings a range of quality of life improvements designed to make navigating and customizing your experience smoother. Fast travel between checkpoints within an area has been added. Once you find a checkpoint, you can instantly travel between it and others in the same area. More checkpoints have also been added, usually near entrances and exits, making exploration much more efficient. For players looking to experiment with builds or got hit by the nerfs, respeccing your passive points has been made cheaper, especially at higher levels. The scaling cost has been flattened, reducing the gold cost by around 40 to 50% towards mid-endgame progression. Some small but helpful updates include the ability to right-click a skill on your skill bar to view detailed information, and gamepad users can now compare equipped flasks. Additionally, chance shards have been added to the currency exchange, and you can now travel to your guild hideout directly from any waypoint. This patch also addresses a wide range of bugs, improving gameplay stability and fixing numerous small issues. For instance, rare monsters that respawn at checkpoints after consuming corpses should no longer do so. Skills like Unearth now correctly interact with support gems, and hitbox inconsistencies for certain abilities such as those from the Invoker Ascendancy have been resolved. Bugs involving visual and UI issues have also been addressed. For example, players using gamepads can now properly access options like the tier selector for microtransactions, portal settings, and recipe views. The cosmetics equipment UI has also been fixed to display missing tier selectors for some slots. Additionally, dialogue from the Trial Master encounter should now play as intended, ensuring a more immersive experience. Finally, significant stability improvements have been made, with 12 client crashes and 3 instance crashes resolved. This patch introduces a range of buffs to skills, support gems, and items, which should give players more powerful and flexible build options. One standout is Rolling Slam, which now deals 50% more damage on its second slam against heavily stunned enemies, making it a strong option for stun-heavy builds. Projectile-based skills also receive some love. Ice Shot now gains additional projectiles as it levels, targets within a tighter 90-degree cone, and its shards travel further, improving its utility and crowd-clearing capabilities. Shockchain Arrow's shockwaves now deal 100% more damage, and Sniper's Mark cooldown has been drastically reduced to just 2 seconds, allowing for more frequent debuffing. Other skills that have been buffed include faster frenzy charge generation for Combat Frenzy, an increased bolt impact radius for Stormcaller Arrow, and significant improvements to shield-based skills like Shield Wall and Resonating Shield, which now deal more damage and have larger areas of effect. Pathfinder's concoction abilities also saw big improvements, with reduced flask consumption and up to 66% more damage at level 20, making them much stronger for endgame builds. Finally, wand skills like Essence Drain and Power Siphon have had their damage scaling increase significantly, boosting their endgame viability. Support gems also received a number of significant buffs in this patch. The standout change is to Withering Touch, which had its damage penalty reduced from 50% to 25%, making it a much stronger option for builds that rely on applying Wither debuffs. Several utility-focused gems also saw improvements. Although the Mobility Support gem had its effect lowered from 40% to 30%, it no longer carries a damage penalty. Ultimately, this is a significant buff for a variety of builds that complement it. Similarly, Impact Shockwave's radius was increased to 2 meters, boosting its effectiveness in crowded fights. Other notable buffs include increased chances for gems like Ricochet and Execrate, faster skill speeds for Ferocity, and significant damage scaling improvements for Decaying Hex, which now deals 60% of intelligence as chaos damage per second, up from 30%. Some items have also been buffed to improve accessibility and scaling. Charm modifiers on belts have become much more common and now drop at lower levels, making it easier for players to incorporate charm effects into their builds. The unique item, the Adorned, now applies to Time Lost Jewels, a type of unique jewel that modifies the passive skill nodes within its radius. These jewels can enhance specific builds by granting bonuses such as increased damage, life regeneration, or other powerful effects. Additionally, the regeneration modifier on Time Lost Jewels has been improved, now providing 3 to 7% life regeneration rate, up from 1 to 2%. For those with existing items, these changes can be updated using a Divine Orb. As with every major update, this patch also includes a number of nerfs aimed at balancing overperforming skills and mechanics. One notable change is Tornado Shot and Vine Arrow. While their damage at lower levels has been slightly increased, both skills now deal substantially less damage at higher levels. This change is intended to focus their utility on supporting other bow skills rather than dominating as standalone damage options. Electrocute has been made 25% harder to build up, which slows down its overall effectiveness, particularly in scenarios where consistent hits are required. Freeze buildup has been reduced after a freeze is applied, making it more challenging to repeatedly freeze enemies in quick succession. Siege Cascade also saw reductions in its damage output. Its explosion damage and bonus damage against immobilized enemies were both scaled down, though these changes are partially offset by improved usability through a larger search radius for targets. While most support gems saw improvements, a few were adjusted to ensure better balance. The biggest change is to the considered casting support gem, which now only supports spells cast directly by the player. In addition, its cast speed penalty was increased from 10% to 15%, making it less appealing for high-speed builds. Other adjustments include Lacerate support, which now has a reduced chance to bleed, and Envenom support, which saw its chance to poison drop slightly. The trial of the Sekhemas has received several targeted improvements to address player feedback. One major change is that honor damage now scales based on distance to enemies. Players in close range take up to 35% less honor damage, with this reduction tapering off at longer distances. Several bugs have also been fixed, such as damage over time effects dealing 3 times as much honor damage as intended, and honor resistance not applying fully. Enemy behavior has been tweaked as well. Skitter golems no longer use basic attacks, instead relying solely on explosions, while Serpent Clan ambushes are now easier to predict thanks to improved telegraphs. Finally, volcanoes created by Rattlecage's Fisher Slam now last half as long, making that encounter a little less punishing. Endgame content and monster encounters have been rebalanced to address some of the more punishing elements. High-tier maps no longer have additional elemental resistance penalties, making progression more consistent across all tiers. Monster critical strikes now deal 40% less bonus damage, and chaos damage scales less aggressively in the endgame, resulting in fairer and more manageable fights. Encounters like Breach and Expedition have also been adjusted. In Breach, the density of elite monsters has been reduced, making the encounters feel less overwhelming. Meanwhile, Expedition's Rune Knights have been toned down, with abilities like Ground Laser now dealing significantly less damage. Additionally, some problematic monster modifiers have been reworked. Volatile crystals have been temporarily disabled while awaiting further adjustments. Meanwhile, the Trail of Fire modifier now deals 30% less damage and has a shorter duration, making it less punishing during encounters. And that's a wrap on the highlights from this patch. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more updates, guides, and discussions about the game. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.